Here, I just drew this up. Here's kind of like what I envisioned our reality is. It's like a computer program, literally, because the computer is fashioned after what our reality is. So we must be fashioned after what another reality is. Here's your left pillar. It's one memory bank. Here's another pillar. It's a right memory bank. The two of these are identical, yet they're separate from each other. In other words, there's two complete realities going on in each one of these. Both of them are feeding into the processor, but not necessarily at the same time. This would explain why we see shit on the news that never happened, with police that weren't really involved. One is seemingly to be running the whole show, which happens to be this memory bank. You know, I can get more into depth in this, but if we look up here, it's interesting because it says to be parable, these two memory references must address opposite memory banks. Well, if you want to get into the biblical aspect of it, what did Jesus always talk about? He talked about parables. And what are parables? Parables are comparing one thing against another thing. So you would be comparing the left against the right and finding what the happy medium would be. Example, the parable of the donkey that fell down the well. Now the Jews are forbidden from doing anything on the Sabbath, which is Saturday. They're not allowed to do nothing. They still don't do it to this day. They don't even answer the phone. They don't do nothing. So the guy's donkey falls down the well. Jesus goes out and helps the guy get it out. The Pharisees and the Sadducees come up and say, "What are you doing? You're breaking the law." And Jesus made a comparison. He says, "Is it better to adhere to the law and leave the donkey in the well until Monday or Sunday, when it will probably or more likely be dead, or does it make more sense to get that out now so the guy can feed his family and be productive for the rest of his life?" That's a parable. When you're comparing one side against the other, this is parable, comparing one side against the other. These are two worlds that are going on exactly at the same time. I don't think the shit we're seeing on TV is happening here. I've said that in many videos. Now, these are called memory banks, right? Electricity is called currency. Okay, current. Money is called currency. Electricity is power. Money is power, because money is currency. Okay? Now, when Daniel asked the angel, when was the world going to end, where did he talk to him at? He talked to him on the river bank. Memory bank. When will it end? Memory bank. I just see a hell of a lot of references in our world that link up to all of this other stuff. Double words, double addresses, double maps, opposite banks, yet they have exactly the same thing working at the same time, trying to force theirs in. If both of them force their information at the same time, the computer will jam, and you've all had that happen, I believe, where you had to reboot. These are mirrors of each other. They're parables. Says it right there. Now, if this is an insult to anybody in the religious organization, sorry. The big black cube is the processor. The very first command, because this is not the real creator. This is the thing that's running this reality. This is not the guy that made it. So I'm not insulting the creator. It's this thing that's running this thing. The first command that came online, when it came online, was I am. It had self-consciousness. That's the phrase, I think, therefore I am. I'm online. Everything was chaotic because the program which is the law. It's the law. The program is the law, the way things work. That's the law. And the law is absolute because it's absolutely the way the system runs. If you break the law, you're a violator. I'll go in more into depth in this stuff. I'm just giving you a basic idea. Current money is power because it's currency. Where does money come from? Because it's cash. What is cash? Cash is C-A-S-H-E. It's cache. Cache is a form of memory that's in computers. When you start running out of cache, you start running out of memory. And pretty soon the thing, it can't hold anymore, and it'll crash and it'll do all kinds of stuff. Kind of the way it works here, when you start running out of cash, things get chaotic. The more cash you have, the better things run. I'm just making comparisons myself. It seems pretty obvious to me that the shit on the TV ain't coming from here. It's not made here. It's coming from somewhere else. This X that you see all over the planet is like a company logo. And Saturn is their logo, which is probably the main processor, although you've been told it's a planet. I've never seen into outer space. I don't know. I'm just saying. So this is just a little thing that I drew up. Both of these banks are pillars. The black cube is the processor. You have gates and computers. That's how information gets in and out. Through gates. Go look it up. The first, what was the pharaoh's name? Ramsey. RAM, random access memory. RAM-C. C is the processor. C is the processor. So you have RAM-C. C is 3. It's light. It's this whole thing about smashing light together. In other words, smashing information from column A, which is the left column, and column B, which is the red column. You're smashing information together. There's two worlds going on here. I guarantee it that there are. Imagine that we live in a computer program in a hard drive. That's what's going on. That's exactly what's going on. And that, to me, explains why we're seeing the shit on the news. Because it ain't happening here. It's happening in another memory bank. And it's being forced into the processor. And the processor is distributing justice or the law equally to both sides. Even though our side had nothing to do with it. So there's no balance here. There's no middle ground. But if you notice, and I've shown you picture after picture, the two pillars with the cube in the middle. That's what I think it is. It's just a theory. It don't mean shit, but it's just a theory. Okay, let's look at this. I showed you in the last video. There's a left pillar and a right pillar. One is ruling the two pillars, but both of them are bullshit because the middle one is where we need to be. Is getting that's what it is. If you look at this, I know this is going to be hard to understand. If you go look at, and even if you watch the video with the guy that does this, his name is Mark Rodin, like Odin, R-O-D-I-N. If you look, he'll explain to you. If you can see the seal of Saturn right in this thing. I just connected it. The 963 is the left pillar here. That's one reality. That's the reality you're seeing in the news. That's the reality that you're seeing on the TV. That's all the fake, real fake bullshit. The red that I outlined in red, I did all this. That's the real reality when you read the news stories with those digits in it as a rule. The rest of the 963 and those versions are absolutely 100% fake. They're not happening here. They're happening somewhere, but they're not happening here. Even if they're just happening in the mind of some goofy writer down at the news story. Things like the World Trade Center did not happen here. I said that when it happened that it didn't happen here. The reason that people swear that it happens here is because we're connected all in the here. On both sides. We're connected here. So what's happening here, you're going to see over here. Both sides are going to affect the center. You know, why is it when somebody says, oh, well, that's a con job, everybody immediately veers away from it. But when you say, oh, it's a contest, everybody's like also eager to get involved with it. It's a contest. There's no difference between a con job and a contest. You're being conned. It's a contest. You're being bullshitted. They're seeing if you'll buy it. There's no difference between a con job and a contest. You follow me? That's what's going on here. The 963, 369, or whatever, those are fucking bullshit stories. Look at them. Every one of them I showed you just about are absolutely fake. It's because we're all tied in the center here between the two, or however this thing is working. I can't pin this down because I don't have conscious thought of it in the right perspective. But what they're doing is affecting us. And the reason that people say, well, I was there when the towers fell. No, you weren't. You have a memory that you were there, but you weren't there. That's why that story will never fit no matter how they slice and dice it. It'll never fit. It's like watching a movie of something, and then you have a memory of watching the movie, but somehow it's translated itself into being a reality. You say, oh, I was there. I knew people. No, you didn't. Now, maybe in some reality, that reality, people did die. But this is a contest. It's a con job. If you go read the story about Jesus when Peter, when he had him walk on the water. Well, what the fuck do you think that was all about? It's all bullshit. It's smoke and mirrors. And it's very hard to get over because you're born into this being told right from the beginning. Why isn't it when a baby comes out of his mother's womb, the first thing he does is cry? He don't giggle because he ain't happy to be here. Because he knows he's going to serve a life sentence. That's what we're all doing. And then while we're in life sentence, you get tortured because you're wearing a fucking prison suit. You know, and so the Bible says, well, I cause it to rain on the just and the unjust, and I cause the sun to shine on the just and the unjust. So in other words, it don't matter who the fuck you are, you're going to get the same treatment. You know, there's an old saying, and it's very true, and I'm telling you, and don't misconstrue what I'm saying. No good deed goes unpunished. That doesn't mean be an asshole to people, but listen to me, this is true. This is a law, just like karma. This is slightly different. What you sow, so shall you reap. Everybody knows that to be true. No good deed goes unpunished. That doesn't mean if you help people out, you're going to get screwed over. That's a law, because the way things work here isn't like you think. It's kind of like saying, I'm doing all the wrong things for all the right reasons. Because in reality, we're on the mirror side of this other shit. And so remember I told you, what if we weren't told how to play the game correctly? That phrase is thrown into the public so that people go, you know, no good deed goes unpunished. You don't have to be mean to people. It's just that I don't know how to explain it without sounding like a bad guy. It's true. How many times have you helped people out and got screwed? It doesn't mean stop helping people. I'm just trying to explain to you that there are rules that we don't know exactly how they work. We don't really know how karma works, but we know that works. They call it karma. What you sow, so you reap. What goes around comes around. We know these things to be true. So I'm just telling you, the blue stories are the bullshit ones, and they're becoming a reality to us in the stories that are made with the red. So when you see the 963 stories, most of those are bullshit. They're made up. It's two different realities mirroring each other. Obviously, the blue one, the left pillar, whatever you want to call it, is the dominating one. Okay? This thing is supposed to be working in unison. Both sides are supposed to be equal. And no, I don't mean androgyny. I'm talking about both sides are supposed to be equal. It's like if only half your brain is working. Which, incidentally, that's what school teaches you. School teaches you to think with one side of your brain and not the other side. One side of your brain is linear, which means it's the side that works through school and does all the book work. But then you got the other side of your brain that's the part that dreams, and it's the esoteric side, the side that thinks. Women are more apt to think with, I believe it's the right side of the brain, than the left. Men think with the left. The woman is always the more emotional one. It is more understanding with the child than the man is. That's why when you put them together, you got a pretty balanced system. But this is not the androgyny that's being pushed via this bullshit movement that they're using the gay people as the patsies for. The gay people are going to be gay no matter what, but they're using them to push their agenda to say, oh, yes, yes, be free, do all of this stuff. But what they're really doing is they're saying, yes, you're a woman, act like a man, and you're a man, act like a woman, because we're androgynous and we want to be the center pillar. Jesus was the center pillar. The center pillar in this whole thing is humanity. That's the center pillar. And when you hear these freaks talk about, oh, well, it's your ego, it's your ego, it's your ego. It's not the ego of a guy walking around with sticking out his chest. That's an animalistic ego. It's the ego that in the mind that refuses to look at reality and say, you know what? I got bullshitted my whole life and I'll have to accept that I know absolutely nothing. That's the ego. There's nothing wrong with thinking that you're better than somebody else because you're a better football player or you're better at anything. That's a totally different ego. The ego that says, I got it all and you can't teach me nothing. See, that's the ego. And these new age freaks, the new age freaks that say, oh, it's your ego, you have to tear your ego down, are the first motherfuckers that'll sit there and tell you that they're God. Now, if that ain't being an egotistical piece of crap, I don't know what is, because you ain't a God. You know what you're going to do? You're going to fuck, you're going to fart, you're going to have kids, you're going to spill beers, you're going to drink Kool-Aid, you're going to go to work, you're going to come home broke, and you're going to die. And maybe not necessarily in all that order. But the bottom line is you're not a God and you never will be. The bottom line is it's the ego to say, I don't know, that stands in the way. We're the center pillar because we're part of the Creator. They've got us being pulled from one side to the other, to the right, to the left. And then they step in and they try and act like the balancing act, even though they're the ones that are running all the confusion. You're the center pillar. But it doesn't mean you have to go, oh, I got to start doing yoga and all this crazy bullshit. It's just understanding that the things you're saying aren't what they are and understanding that, hey, man, maybe I did get screwed over. Maybe I am wrong. But what they've done is they set up institutions, religious organizations all around the world in every denomination to keep everybody busy. And then they open, for the people that aren't religious, they open up stadiums for sports. And for the other people that aren't into all of that stuff, they open up Eastern religions and Middle Eastern religions and Western religions and all of this other stuff. All of these different things. And if that doesn't work, we'll keep you busy trying to make a living. As long as we keep you busy, you'll never sit down and start thinking about, well, what is this? How come this doesn't make sense? It's a contest. It's a con job. You just have to figure out when you get tired of being conned. Because I'm telling you, a greater deception is coming. The past, present, and future are all happening at the same time. I know that's weird and hard to understand because it's bizarre for me too. But all of this is already done. And it's already beginning. The first will be the last and the last will be the first. It's all happening exactly at the same point.